The following episode of The Cards Court was recorded on Monday, November 6th. The Cards Court is a presentation of SportsLink Digital Radio, presented by Victory Honda of Muncie. Chirp, chirp, and go Cards.
Good afternoon and welcome to this week's, the first ever episode of The Cards Court, the number one weekly Ball State basketball show in the world. I'm your host, Griffin Leonard. Joining me this week as my co-host is Sam Neiger, and joining us later on the show this week as our guest will be Ball State men's basketball head coach Michael Lewis. With that, the court is now in session. Sam, thanks for joining me this week. How you doing?
I'm doing great, Griffin. Glad to be here. So happy that basketball is finally back here in Muncie.
Basketball is back indeed. Just this morning, the Ball State Cardinal women's basketball team took on Tennessee Tech. It was a revenge game from last year where Tennessee Tech won in overtime in the season opener, and this year the Cards got it done, winning by an astounding score of 97-64. General thoughts on that one, Sam?
Yeah, total dominance from Ball State from start to finish. They jumped out to a 5-point lead at the end of that first quarter, and they never looked back. Field trip day is always a fun one for the women's basketball team. That game obviously played at 11 a.m. with thousands of first and second graders packing the stands. They brought the energy, and the Cardinals delivered on the court against, as what you mentioned, was a pretty solid Tennessee Tech team last year. Maybe they slipped off a little bit heading into this season, but regardless, 97 points against a Division I program. Nothing to scoff at. Great performance from Ball State all around.
Field trip day is one of my favorite games of the season, I gotta say, Sam. Just having all the kids just screaming the whole time. Like, you would think that it's an NBA primetime game, but instead it's Ball State women's basketball, non-conference game at that. And the atmosphere is awesome. 4,200 in attendance, and yeah, elementary schools from Muncie down to West L area, down to Indy. I saw a couple of Indy schools, but just great showing, not only by the fans, but by the team. You look at some of the numbers, Alex Richard with 18 leading the way, and Allie Becky trailing just behind with 16. Becky didn't miss, and I got to say, offensively, the Cardinals are looking really comfortable.
They are. We wondered if there was going to be kind of a lapse in production with the loss of Anna Clefane and Telma DeSaugustarter, but players all over the court stepped up for Ball State. Alex Richard, obviously a big one as the leading scorer, but she hasn't dropped 20 points since her first season at Butler. She didn't get 20 today, but 18 leading the way for the Cardinals. That's huge for her. And then off the bench, Anna Barreto, 12 points on the day. The bench production was there for the Cardinals as well, just all around top to bottom offensive efficiency.
Yeah, if you haven't seen this Cardinal team in person, I would highly recommend it. They're so fun to watch. They're so quick. And I was telling you just before we came on here, Sam, that if a team, other than like a Power 5 team that just has better play overall, for a team our quality or in the MAC to beat us, they're going to have to play fast, and there's a lot of teams in the MAC that just aren't capable of that. If you don't have that speed, you're just not going to be able to keep up with the Cardinal press.
And it's interesting that you mentioned the Power 5 thing, Griffin, because in my mind, our speed is what puts this Ball State team close to the same level of what a lot of Power 5 teams are going to play at. Brady Salee is a great coach for this Cardinals team. He's going to teach us to respect the ball, even if we're pushing the pace. So if we're able to continue to play at this fast pace and hold on to the ball, continue to make buckets like we did today, Ball State puts themselves in a great position to not only compete with these mid-major programs, but they can also compete with a lot of Power 5 teams.
Well, and just the last thing I want to point out before we move on, the defensive presence as well. 19 steals, 2 blocks. That's just remarkable. You see some unforced errors, right? But the amount of forced turnovers Ball State presents just with the pressure that they put on is just difficult to generate offense as an opposing team.
Yeah, Nyla Hampton was one player in particular that jumped off the page for me. 8 steals of the 19 for the Cardinals. She was the MAC reigning Defensive Player of the Year for a reason. She's not necessarily going to be that offensive threat, but as we noted, there's players that are going to be able to make up for that. Just 6 points for her on the day, but those 8 steals, a big difference. It stopped Tennessee Tech from ever getting into any rhythm on the offensive side, and if she's able to continue with those numbers down the road, she's going to be a real threat. And then how about Hannah Moole with 4 steals of her own? A big day for her off the bench as well. Another player that's going to be stepping up into a big role this year.
The Ball State women's team gets it done. They win 97-64. They go 1-0 overall, and they'll be back at it on Saturday. Looking at the other side of Ball State basketball now, the men's team taking on Rose-Hulman in an exhibition match last Thursday. They got it done in an 85-52 win Thursday night at Worthen. And for them, it wasn't quite as dominant of a performance as the women's team had, but still looking pretty good with Bashir Jihad getting 13 points. Zane Dowdy in his first game in a Cardinal uniform putting up 12, and transfer Jalen Anderson 11 as well.
You know what, Griffin? The Cardinals did what they were supposed to do. I don't think there's really anything to be disappointed about when it comes to an 85-52 win. I think Ball State maybe just wanted a little more efficiency on the offensive side of the ball. They looked a little flustered at the start of the game, but eventually the team settled in, and you talked about it. 3 players in double digits between Jihad, Dowdy, and Jalen Anderson as well with 11. This is a team that can spread the rock really well, and if they're able to take some smarter shots, maybe hit some of these looks that they were missing that would usually drop, I think this is a team that can score a lot of points, and we're going to be able to see that on Tuesday night as well against Goshen. I think very similar story. I think if the shots fall, Ball State could see upwards of triple digits for the offense.
Yeah, the Cardinals, one thing they'll have to do, and we'll talk about that later, but they'll have to get the shots going. They'll have to take smarter shots because there were some possessions that just felt a little too empty. But when you look at the stat sheet, Bashir Jihad, a rebound away from a double-double. Jalen Anderson, I got to say, I love some of the recruits and the freshmen and the transfers that we brought in. Jalen Anderson at 11 alongside 6 assists and 5 steals. Just an overall really good performance. A lot of new faces on the Ball State team, but with that, a lot of new fun to look forward to. And when you look at this game, the season opener on Tuesday against Goshen, a lot of things to look forward to there.
Certainly, Griffin. This is a Goshen team that only had 3 wins last year at the NAIA level, so this is a team that Ball State can really show the sparks. They can let the fire kind of ignite Worthen Arena, and I think this will be a good thing for the Ball State momentum and for their mindset heading into some tougher games later in this season.
Well, we were both at the game on Thursday, but we can only speak to the team so much. I think that there's somebody that could tell us a little bit more, and that's head coach Michael Lewis. He's going to join us on the other side of this break. But until then, please enjoy the 2023-2024 women's basketball intro video presented to you by the creative storytellers at Ball State Sports Link. We'll be right back here on the Cards Court.
In our nest, we protect it. And when we're on the road, we bring it. It's about seizing the opportunity and taking advantage of what's been given to us.
Welcome back to the Cards Court. Out of the break, we have our guest on, Coach Michael Lewis of the men's basketball team, alongside Sam and I. Coach, thank you for joining us. How are you doing?
Doing good. I'll know better after tomorrow night, but right now I'm doing okay.
Well, tomorrow night, a big game, the season opener, the home opener against Goshen. But first, let's talk the exhibition game. Rose-Hulman, D3 school. The result, maybe not necessarily the biggest part there, just trying to find some team chemistry. What goes into preparation for a game like that, and what were your thoughts on the outcome?
Yeah, I think when you're in an exhibition game, situation. Like it's obviously about you. It's not so much about the opponent. It's good to get out there against somebody other than yourself, but you're much more focused on our team, different combinations of lineups, getting guys a look, getting them an opportunity to compete against somebody else. And the biggest thing that I wanted to see in that exhibition was we had scrimmaged another Division I opponent Saturday before that, and I wanted to see us make improvements from the scrimmage, and we did. We're far from a finished product, but I saw some growth from Saturday to Thursday that was encouraging.
And Coach, you talked about the chemistry that you guys have been shooting for. What combinations have you seen, especially now that we're getting to the start of the season, that you've liked?
Well, we've had some injuries that have kept some guys out. Zane Dowdy's a freshman, but so they're the freshmen, and we have a lot of them are naturally behind the curve to begin with. Zane is 6 weeks further behind that curve because he had a foot surgery for a stress fracture. But you're just trying to get guys looks and try to get them in a little bit of a rhythm, like Bashir and Mickey and Jalen Anderson. Even though he wasn't here, those guys have played a lot of college basketball. So you're just trying to get them, a good sweat, try to get them in a little bit of a rhythm out there. And then you want to kind of open up the game for some guys to get some experience and just kind of see, what you have out there in a competitive situation. And, we only have 3 guys on our team that have ever really, truly competed at the college level. Junior college is not this. Ben Hendricks has been on our roster for several years, but he hasn't gotten the opportunity to perform. And so that's what I mean by those 3 guys, Mickey, Bashir, and Jalen Anderson. Ethan Britton Watts is a guy that's played at this level, but he's injured. So right now we got 3 guys that have played college basketball, and we've got to be able to get these guys up to speed as quickly as possible.
Talking about the freshmen, a lot of new faces on this team. A lot of guys who stepped up on Thursday: Mason Jones, Zane, Joey Brown, all playing well. What does that speak to the eagerness of these guys, that they're ready to go, ready to get into it? And then how encouraging is that for you as the coach to see your guys, like they look ready to go and the season hasn't even started yet?
Well, they look ready to go to you. I'm not sure they look quite ready to go to me, but those guys have all had I call it a youthful energy to how they go about their business. They don't know what they don't know yet. There's a little bit of a beauty to that. And like most teams at this time of year, even the veteran teams, like you're trying to break bad habits. A lot of these guys coming, especially the freshmen coming from high school, this is a different level. And they can't just walk in and, kind of mosey through a practice and go out and perform at the level they need to. They're no longer the best athlete on the floor. They're no longer the best player on the floor. And if they don't practice well, they're not going to perform well. And the difference between me and their high school coach, their high school coach was forced to play them. They're the best player. Like, he's trying to win too. And so regardless of how that kid, like if Mason Jones had a bad practice of Valpo, he was still playing on Friday night. And the difference is I don't have to do that. I have the luxury of having, a collection of best players from where they come from, so to speak. And so we've got to be able to develop practice habits, develop, habits that we see that lead to winning. And those things take time. And sometimes they latch on to certain individuals a little bit quicker than others, but we got to continue to build those habits to where we can win some basketball games.
Yeah, going from year one, your first year, now to this second year where you're starting to have a few more of your recruits in, what are you trying to do to continue to build this program to be better and better than ever?
Yeah, well, I like the last guy's recruits pretty good. We figured out a way to win with them. We just had to kind of tighten some screws with that group, and it was a different group. They were talented. We had to teach them how to win and the responsibility of what it was like to be on a winning team. And quite frankly, at this time of year last year, it was still full-on combat in practice of trying to get those guys to understand what we were about and what our expectations were. To those guys' credit, they figured it out. It kind of took hold early December. That's why we went on the winning streak that we did. And those guys figured it out and had a great season. This group is a little bit different. They're obviously younger and experienced, and we got to teach them what it's like at this level and get them to where they're competitive at this level. And I do like the overall talent level of this crew is just very inexperienced, and I don't think you can put a price tag on experience. There's a reason, why there's been very few teams with like 5 freshmen outside the Fab Five who had that type of success, and you're talking about 4 NBA players on that team. So, the experience is very valuable. We got to get these guys up to speed as quickly as we can.
And to that point, Coach, how have you seen your coaching style specifically change from last year into this year now that you do have so much inexperience?
Yeah, I think it's a lot more teaching. Like there's parts of practice every day where I feel like it's basketball 101, which can be frustrating, but you got to realize what you have. We're going to play a little bit different, both offensively and defensively, from a year ago because of our personnel. I think in mid-major basketball these days, like you don't. Like if I was a head coach at a Power 5, this is how I play, this is how we're going to do it, and you can recruit to it. At a mid-major level, I'm not sure you can do that year in and year out because of the way that college basketball is set up right now with the transfer portal and NIL and different things. So we have a collection of players here. It's my job as the coach to figure out the best way to play with that collection of talent. And so we're going to play a little bit different, a little bit more wide open. We don't have a 6'9", 250-pound bully down on the block this year. We got to do some different things and use Bashir's abilities in a different way. And then conversely, we can do some different things defensively. I think overall we're probably a little bit more athletic than we were a year ago on the defensive end, have a little bit more versatility, so we can do some different things there. But, as you build a program, it's more, I think, here for us at this time in college basketball, it's about who you bring in and what they're about and their characteristics. I like this young group. I like what they're about. I like their approach. I like our returners. The challenge is going to be when these guys have success, keeping them and building upon that.
Doing things a little differently. I like it. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we'll have more with Coach Lewis right here on the Cards Court.
Victory Honda of Muncie. We're not just another car dealership, and here's why. We stand behind every car we sell and are dedicated to helping our customers save time and money. All our pre-owned cars undergo a rigorous 182-point inspection and come with a 90-day warranty to ensure that you're getting a Victory quality vehicle. Plus, you'll get 2 years of complimentary oil changes and tire rotations. We're part of a top 15 dealership group and have an enormous selection of vehicles with access to inventory at over 45 locations. You always get more for your trade and the best possible rates with us. We have an excellent relationship with hundreds of lenders. Our exclusive Car Doc maintenance and membership program will help you save hundreds of dollars in the process of maintaining your vehicle. Lastly, our state-of-the-art body shop and certified technicians perform high-quality repairs and paintwork on most vehicle makes and models. Victory Honda of Muncie. We're not just another car dealership.
Welcome back to the Cards Court. I'm Griffin Leonard alongside Sam Neiger, and with us today, Coach Michael Lewis of the men's basketball team. Coach, talking about Halloween, the season may slightly be over, but I feel like it's still relevant.
You were a big hit, man.
Yeah, you liked it. Well, I guess we'll show the audience here what my costume was. But your thoughts on my costume, really quick?
I thought it was really good. The knot on the tie, maybe just a tad off. I should have straightened it up for you, but no, man, it was fantastic, and that was pretty good, man. Pretty good.
I think the bald cap needed a little bit of maybe of a different color.
Well, I hope my head's not that wrinkly. I hope it's not quite that wrinkly. But no, that was great, man. You pulled it off.
Well, with Halloween comes a lot of superstition, and superstition plays into sports a lot. Are there any bits of superstition that either the team have or various rituals or themes that you guys are doing this year?
I think athletes in general are very routine based. I think they can get a little off center when their routine is disrupted. I'm not a huge superstition guy. I will tell you a quick story, but one of the reasons I'm not into superstitions is Ed Carpenter, who drives Indy cars, races in the Indianapolis 500. During my time at Butler, we were joking around about something, and he pulled me aside and said, "Hey, there's no place in sport for superstition." Well, when a guy that drives a race car 240 miles an hour down a straightaway, he gets it. It's not about the superstition. But I do have a little note card in each one of the little inside pockets of the different suits that I have that has that suit's career record on it, who we played. And it's not like a superstition. It's just, you pull out a suit and like, hey, man, this one here is, 19-6. Like, let's roll it. Let's go get number 20. Or, this one's lost 4 in a row. Like, dude, you're fighting for your life tonight. Like, you'll end up in St. Vinny. You don't perform tonight. But not a superstition thing. Just kind of a little quirky little deal that I do.
Yeah, well, maybe you have a big game and you're like, okay, maybe let's break out the red tie.
No question. Like, when I was at UCLA, or you're like, okay, that's a tournament suit. This suit had a good year. If you got a bad year, you got to perform. You got to sit on the bench.
Do we have our suit picked out for tomorrow against Goshen?
No, not yet. I gotta go see what shirt's ironed.
Is that a night before thing, or is that a day of?
I may glance at it tonight, get an idea, but normally it's just a day of. The problem with getting older, and the thing I gotta check is make sure they fit. They got my off season exercise regime wasn't what it needed to be, so I got to make sure a few of these things fit.
Well, looking ahead to Goshen, where you will be rocking that suit, hopefully. Some things to carry over from Thursday, perhaps, that you thought went well, and then some things that you saw that could be improved upon on the season opener.
Yeah, we got to continue to evolve defensively. That's got to be a sense of, you got to have a sense of pride in your defense. I felt like in evaluating last year's team, we finished 8th in our league in defense. If we would have finished 3rd in the league, I believe we would have played Toledo here on the last game of the regular season for a chance to tie for a conference championship. And so our defense has got to be much better, much improved. I think we got to cover the 3-point line better. I think we've got to be able to defend the drive better. And so those are all things that we've been working on here in practice as of late. I wasn't happy with our transition defense after our scrimmage. It got better. Obviously, the level of opponent was much different, but we got to continue to grow in those areas, and we got to be able to use our length, and we got to get our hands out of our pockets and play with some higher hands, be more disruptive on the defensive end. Offensively, I was really pleased with how we took care of the basketball. We had 6 turnovers. One of them was an illegal screen. We should have 1 to 2 of those every game. But we handled the ball much better than we did against our Division I opponent in our scrimmage. So, again, we've got to continue to improve, move the basketball, no wasted dribbles. I thought we created a lot of open shots offensively. We just got to have some guys step up and knock them in, which I believe they will.
And Coach, one guy specifically on the defensive side that I've got to talk to is Jalen Anderson. He really prides himself on the defensive side of the ball. What has his addition to your team been like so far this year as a leader specifically?
Jalen's his sense of pride and my sense of pride may be a little bit different. But no, Jalen's been a great addition to our program. He was one of those guys that from Loyola Marymount was was a good player for them. As some guys look for different situations, he was looking for, a little bit more responsibility and a bigger role. I think he's got the opportunity to do that here. He's played a lot of college basketball. He understands the game. He's got a good feel. He got a good pace to him. He doesn't really get sped up. I would like him to play with a little bit more burst and be a little bit more aggressive at times. But he's been a really good addition. And I think as he gets more comfortable with what we're doing and what our expectations are, he can become more and more vocal and really become a leader on this team.
When you guys go into prepping for an opponent, prepping for specific players, how do you guys do that with your personnel? Because, obviously you have your roster and you can do walkthroughs and you can kind of, have some guys pretend to be the other team. But what does that prep go in when you're facing various teams, and how do you switch that up?
Well, we divide our scouting up on our staff. Each assistant has scout assignments, and their responsibility for that game. And when they have that responsibility, they're responsible for everything from their personnel, the tendencies of that personnel to their actions. And then they present that to me, and then we share that information on down to the team. And I like our staff. I think we've got a group of guys that understand the game at a pretty high level, have the ability to break down teams and present pertinent information to our guys where they can understand it. Like, it's not what we know, but it's the information that we can get to our players and for them to understand and be able to not only understand it, but be able to put it to use in highly competitive situations where your thoughts and things have to be, very quick. And so, like, they don't need to know 10 things, but like, what are the 1 or 2 things of each guy that we have to take away, and try to force teams to beat us doing something that they're not comfortable doing. Like, it's really bad. Like, I have a big thing on scout points. Things like if a guy is just he's a catch and shoot guy, like he has no game off the bounce, and we let a guy get 4, catch and shoot 3, like those are scout points. Those are things that we can easily take away. Now, if you run him off the line and he decks it hard left and hits a pull-up jump shot, like that's not on you. That's you're taking away what his strength. Make those guys beat you doing something that they don't normally do every day.
All right, we'll take a quick break. When we get back, just a little bit more from Coach Michael Lewis, and then we'll send you on our way. You're listening to the Cards Court on SL Digital Radio, presented by Victory Honda of Muncie.
During the spring of 2020, 12 students from Ball State University travelled to Cardiff, Wales. A partnership forged about education, collaboration, opportunity, and engagement.
Welcome to Cardiff.
Please welcome the home team, Cymru, Wales.
So this Ball State Cardiff Met partnership is just brilliant to bring people together across the pond with a shared love of sport and a shared love of storytelling and filmmaking and a sort of creative passion. It's been brilliant to see from a staff perspective and a student's perspective.
Produced by the creative storytellers in Ball State Sports Link. This is Transatlantic Storytelling 2020. For more information, visit transatlanticstorytelling.com.
Welcome back to the Cards Court. Griffin Leonard alongside Sam Neiger and Ball State men's basketball coach Michael Lewis. Coach, the college basketball world was saddened by the news of the passing of legendary IU basketball coach Bob Knight. I know he meant a lot to you. You played for him for multiple years. What does Bob Knight mean to you?
Well, he means a great deal. I think, I committed to Bob Knight in Indiana when I was junior in high school. I was 17 years old. And in doing so, my life changed at 17. It changed the course of my life. I wouldn't be the head coach here at Ball State, I truly believe, if not for my time spent with Coach. And, he had, he, like all of us, tried to demand the best out of the people around us, whether it's my assistant coaches, our players, our peripheral administrators, everything it takes to run a successful basketball program. Like you try to demand their best and stretch their boundaries. Coach obviously did that for all of us, but what made him special was he had the unique ability to not only demand it, but then get it. And that's where a lot of people fall short. Like, he had the ability to get the best out of each of us. He's the guy. Like, when I went to IU, like, I knew I wanted to be involved in athletics in some way, but I had other interests. Like, I didn't know I wanted to coach. For sure, when I first entered college, he was the guy that kind of nudged me into coaching, and he let me know that one, he thought coaching would be good for me. He thought, he expressed he thought I would be good at it. And when you're at that age and Bob Knight tells you he thinks, he believes you could be good at something, like, it resonates. Like, okay, like, well, that's what I'm going to do. He thinks I'm going to be good. Like, I'll try that, and he let me know that if I wanted to go down that route, whenever that was, that the door would be open with him to get me started. And so, he got me into coaching, not only helped me as a player, but then got my career started and has provided myself and my family with a life. And he was able to use a game not only to teach us how to play basketball and win at basketball, but then was able to relate those things to life and how to win at life. And I think, each one of us players, we have our own different and unique personal relationship with him. I played for him. I worked for him. And then afterwards, there's never been a professional decision that I've made without seeking his advice up until I made the move to UCLA because he was sick. And, that phone call was more just letting him know where I was, where I was going. And he was already feeling the effects of his illness at that time. But up until then, there was not a professional decision that I made without seeking his advice. And every time I called to check in with him, see how he was doing, he answered the phone the same way post-graduation was, Mike, what can I do for you? And I never really needed anything other than just asking his opinion on things. But that's how he answered the phone to me, and I'm sure many others.
You talked about demanding it and then getting it.
Yeah, there's a difference. There's a difference. The old Rick Pitino, coaching is like, you do 4-man shell, defensive drill, right? Oh, we're great in 4-man shell. We do this perfect every day. And, but we can't, a high school coach would ask him a question at a clinic. I get my team to do 4-man shell perfect every day. And then we get into a game situation, 5-on-5, and we break down. Like, why can I not get – and Rick Pitino, that's coaching. You got to walk them across that bridge. Like, you can demand their best. Not everybody can get it. The great ones like Coach Knight, he had the ability to get it.
Yeah, Bob Knight, he coached with a lot of passion, and I think a lot of people see that same kind of passion in you when you're out there. You're yelling at your guys, you're yelling at the refs. Like, you're doing everything you can from your spot to put your guys in the best position to succeed. How does that inspire your players in the midst of the game to be the best they can be?
Well, I think being a coach, your number one job is to be a truth teller. Now, as a coach, you got to tell some hard truths. Can you deliver those hard truths without being demeaning? Can you deliver those hard truths and show value in an individual without breaking them with what they can and can't do? But they have to have a good understanding of what they can and can't do. You've got to try to hide you want to exploit their abilities, all right, and hide their weaknesses, both individually and as a team. To do that, you have to have a true understanding. Part of being a great player is understanding who you are. I couldn't have competed at the level that I competed at in Indiana. Like, I'm 6'1". I got average length. I've got average speed. I got average athleticism. Like, I had to do something different. Like, I can't just walk out there and be like, hey, this is me, and go be an all Big Ten player. Like, I had to do something different. And they were able to get me to believe that I was the toughest dude on the court every night. Now, whether or not I was, doesn't matter. I believed I was. And therefore, I went out and performed in a way that tried to reflect that I was. And you got to try to do that with the guys that you have around you. And I think in doing that and developing relationships, when those guys understand that you care at the level that you care at, then they'll go to work for you.
Coach, on Thursday's exhibition against Rose-Hulman, you got the chance to wear the classic red sweater vest to honor Bob Knight. What did that mean to you to be able to represent your
Well, you just, like, to have the opportunity to play for him obviously was special. To work for him was special. To be able to call him a friend and a mentor is even better. I guess he was better at that than he was a coach, and he was the greatest college coach that we've had. So when that came about, like, how do you honor a guy like Bob Knight, right? Like, how do you do it? And so I'm not a big, even though we do the whole party planner stuff here to try to generate some interest and things, we're trying to wake up the basketball dead, quite honestly, here at Ball State with some of that stuff. I'm not a super flashy guy or a big self promoter. So how do you honor a guy like that? Well, you just do something pretty subtle like that I think everybody, not only in this state, especially this state, but not only in this state, across the country in college basketball, they're going to understand what that was about.
Now that you are a NCAA head coach and head coach in Indiana at that, how are you going to carry on the legacy of Bob Knight and what you're doing?
Try to be my best every day. Try to coach the right way. try to demand the right way, try to get half the results that he was able to get, and just be who he taught us to be, and that was, hold yourself accountable. Like, you're going to make mistakes, own them, learn from them, grow, and just try to go out and do your best. He taught us how to do that. Like we had an instance in practice today with our guys, and we were just talking about like motivation. Like, there's the days coming for those guys that are numbered where there's not going to be somebody like me or somebody like our coaching staff standing over you demanding that you do something to the best of your abilities. Like, those days are numbered. I said, who demands the best of me? Like, nobody. I do. And those days for those people, for our players. Each day that passes, those days are getting smaller and smaller, where you're going to have somebody over you. You guys are going to have, you two aren't going to have professors over you teaching you and showing you and demanding. Those days are numbered. So when you get out on your own, how are you going to get your best? Well, that's got to come from inside, and we were taught how to do that. We were taught how to hold ourselves to a higher standard. That's why we were different, right? That's why we had the success that we had. That's why not only as players, but that's why all of us are successful in life, because we learned how to motivate ourselves and demand the best out of ourselves.
Coach Bob Knight motivating others until the end. And with that, we'll take a break here on the Cards Court. A huge thank you to Coach Michael Lewis for joining us on this afternoon's episode. Please make sure to get out to the season opener and to Ball State basketball games all season. But we'll take a break. We'll be back here on the Cards Court. You're watching on SL Digital Radio, presented by Victory Honda of Muncie.
Hi, I'm Chris Taylor, Senior Director of Digital Sports Production and Ball State Sports Link, the nation's first 4-year academic digital sports production program. It's the intersection of sports and storytelling, where we're training the next generation of digital content producers. It's truly unique because a lot of schools have sports broadcasting and sports journalism, and while we have elements of both of those, our focus is on sports media production and the behind-the-scenes work. And I think that's what separates us at Ball State, because a lot of schools will teach students to learn production or live event streaming, but we're teaching storytelling. And that is producing long-form, layered feature stories where we can humanize our student athletes and our coaches and tell the story as to why they're playing their sport at Ball State. Anyone can produce or edit things that are flashy and look good, but can you tell a story? And at Ball State, I think we really teach that, and the success is evident.
Welcome back to the Cards Court. I'm your host, Griffin Leonard, alongside Sam Neiger. A big thank you to Coach Michael Lewis for joining us this afternoon, getting us ready for the season opener Tuesday night against Goshen. But before we get you there, we're going to do one quick segment. It's a segment I like to call PBP's Keys. 3 keys for the Ball State basketball teams that they're going to need to unlock if they're going to get the job done this week. And Sam, let's start with the first one. For men's basketball, you got to take smart shots. I think a big issue against Rose-Hulman was they were rushing possessions. They weren't getting quality looks, and that's something they're going to need to do against Goshen.
It was just tough to watch that Ball State team try and settle in against Rose-Hulman in that exhibition. Like you said, they were forcing up shots that they didn't necessarily have to take. It's going to be a similar story against Goshen. Ball State has the better talent. If they're able to settle this offense down, get the looks that Michael Lewis wants them to get, they're going to be in great shape against Goshen. It's just about smart shot selection, both inside the paint and beyond the arc.
On the women's basketball side, something that we saw a little bit more of against Tennessee Tech, but I think that the women's team really needs to start utilizing the bigs more with that combination between Richard and Kiefer.
Yeah, Alex Richard, we saw her performance against Tennessee Tech with 18 points. That's exactly what they need out of her. That's something that Ball State kind of lacked last season that let them down in the MAC tournament. They weren't able to compete in the paint. If Alex Richard and Marie Kiefer are able to combine for somewhere around that 30-point neighborhood in every single game, this is going to be a team that's almost impossible to stop. The two of them combined for 28 total points in that first game against Tennessee Tech. If they're able to continue to play smart defense and also work the lane well, this is a Ball State team that puts themselves in great shape.
And the third and final key for this week, and this goes for both teams, keep up the intensity. I've loved the hustle. I've loved what I've seen as far as aggressiveness goes from both sides. And it's a game changer, and I think if they continue to utilize that, we're going to be in good shape.
Well, it doesn't get more cliche than this, Griffin, but the season is a marathon and not a sprint, and Ball State, on the men's and women's side, needs to hunker in for a marathon. There's a lot of basketball left to be played. We are still just in the first week of November, so there's still so much left that goes into this season. Both of these teams still have a ton of time to settle in, but both squads in great shape here at the start of this 2023-24 season.
That was PBP's Keys. And looking ahead at this week's schedule, 3 games are on the docket for Ball State basketball. First on Tuesday, Goshen comes to Worthen to take on the men's team in their home opener. Tip-off is slated for 7 p.m., and you can catch that game on SportsLink Digital Radio with Ryan Stojets and our boy Sam Neiger on the call. Then on Saturday, women's hoops hit the road for the first time this season when they take on the Trojans of Troy University. The men's team, on the other hand, continues their season opening homestand when they take on Old Dominion at 2 p.m. Saturday right here in Muncie in the inaugural MAC Sun Belt Challenge. That game can also be caught on SL Digital with Andrew Willett and Caden Vincent possessing the commentary duties. Thank you for tuning in to the first episode of the Cards Court. Don't forget to tune in next week when we talk to women's basketball radio voice Dom Leah about their hot start to the season. Until then, for Michael Lewis and Sam Neiger, I'm Griffin Leonard signing off. The court is adjourned.